On the surface, climbing is an activity of lines. The holds are in fixed positions on a wall and we use our body to connect the dots. If we look at a climb head-on, the movement from one hold to the next is generally done using the shortest path of a straight line. Up, down, left, right, and diagonals. These are the controls of our climbing, much like a two-dimensional video game. However, climbing isn't done in 2D. Rotate our field of view and you will see all the subtleties of climbing movement in 3 dimensions. Not only do we need to work against the downward pull of gravity, but we must overcome the outward pull as well. This is where climbing is no longer an activity of lines, but an activity of curves. Before we get into curves, I want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that basically makes you an online ninja by masking your internet activity and allowing you to teleport anywhere in the world. Here's how it works. Surfshark lets you connect to a server in another part of the world. This changes your IP address and encrypts all your data so that no one can snoop on what you're doing or see where you're doing it from. Super handy if you travel or connect to a lot of public Wi-Fi networks. Speaking of traveling, if you wanted to see what the Netflix selection in France is like, simply connect to a server in that country and you can use the internet like you're there. This also works the other way if you wanted to access websites that are blocked in the country you're in. Surfshark already has one of the best prices I've seen for a VPN service, but if you wanted an even bigger discount, use the link in the description and enter promo code Movement for Climbers for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Now back to the video. The most common instance of curvature in climbing is in the movement of the dead point. When we're learning the dead point, we're told to sink our bodies away in the direction opposite of the target hold to generate momentum towards the hold. For example, if my target hold is at 2 o'clock, I compress my body towards 8 o'clock first before making the move. However, switch to a 3D view and you'll see that the key movement in the dead point is curving your body towards the wall. We create this curve by pulling our bodies into the wall in the same motion as pulling towards the hold. If we look at it from a side view, our bodies make what looks like a C curve. This C curve is probably the single most important movement you can do in climbing. It's applicable when you dead point on any type of terrain, but it's especially useful when climbing steep terrain or performing a high tension move. On an overhang, the moment we move towards a hold, our bodies are being pulled away from the wall. That means as we reach our hand, we're already falling away. The C curve combats this by moving our body towards the wall as we reach, allowing us to hit the hold in a hover state. This drastically reduces the speed with which we come into the hold as well as the impact on our hands. This works the same in high tension moves. Our body is in such a critical state just by holding the position that removing a hand to reach statically would completely ruin us. You've probably experienced this many times trying to perform a hard move only to touch the hold with your hips completely out and body falling away. Add a little C curve to this and it will make all the difference. You'll start hitting the hold with your body coming in instead of falling away. And to see the pros do it, here's Marco Hayes demonstrating a picture-perfect C curve on a high-tension dead point. The second most common curve in climbing is seen in the movement of the dyno. This technique involves a climber launching themselves at a hold outside of static reach, momentarily removing all points of contact before latching the hold. While both the dyno and dead point are considered dynamic moves, their curvature is completely opposite. The curve of a dyno looks like a backwards C, the mirror image of the C curve seen in the dead point. When executing a dyno, the climber must pull their body into the wall first before pushing off with their legs. This results in an arching motion where the climber is actually traveling away from the wall as they approach the hold. Here's a textbook example of the backward C curve seen in the most recent IFSC World Cup. Why does a dyno have a backward C-curve instead of a normal C like seen in the dead point? If we break down the sequence of the dyno, we can understand it better. Generally speaking, a dyno involves first pulling with the arms and then pushing with the legs. The pulling is what gets the body in the most advantageous position to fully leverage the power of the legs, which is what's used to drive the body towards the hold. Since we're pulling first, we need to get the body as close to the wall as possible before pushing off, or else we'll end up too far from the wall. The pulling in before pushing off is what creates this backwards C-curve. The dead point has a normal C-curve because its sequence of movements is opposite to that of the dyno. Because we're keeping our contact points on the wall, the dead point allows us to first push with the legs and then pull with the arms. The pushing initiates the motion, while the pulling directs us towards the hold, thus creating the C-curve. If we keep these curves in mind when performing these techniques, we'll start being a lot more successful and accurate. Oftentimes, we only have the target hold in focus and lose sight of the trajectory our body needs to take to effectively reach the hold. Remember this for your next session. When dead pointing, push, pull in, latch. When dynoing, pull in, push, latch. Good luck, and until next time, move better, climb harder.